Welcome back to the channel, guy. Today is Tuesday, so it is going to be for our beginner photographers. We've had a lot of subscribers over the last 12 months, so I want to make sure I have something for everybody from the very beginner to the established pro. So today will be for the beginner. And I think this is kind of an important subject, and a lot of people get confused, and it's probably the most asked question in all of photography that any photographer gets. So let's jump into that, and I'll try to answer this question for you. So if you're brand new into photography and you're looking at all these cameras and you're seeing the Canon R6 Mark III is on its way out soon, and that's going to be a great camera. You know, there's a lot of cameras on the market that come with a pretty nice price tag, and they do a lot of things. But I think that can be a hindrance to the new photographers because there's so much in these cameras that don't really help you get the basics right. The basics is the exposure triangle, your shutter speed, your aperture, and your ISO. Those are the three things you need to master first. So if you're jumping into a high-end, say whenever they do release the Canon R6 Mark III, it will be a great camera, but it might not be a great camera for you. I would suggest to save money. I've looked at a few cameras. One is the Canon 50D. I've had this camera since it first came out. Shot a lot of pictures with this wedding, and it's been a great camera. It's 18 megapixels. It's not a mirrorless camera, but it is a camera you can get at KEH for under $200. And it will do everything you need to do to learn the exposure triangle, because no matter what camera you can have the most expensive camera ever made. If you don't understand the exposure triangle, your shutter speed, your f-stop, and your ISO, it doesn't matter. You're not going to get a good picture. You need to learn the basics before you can move up to a newer camera. I've always said, master the camera you have now before upgrading to a new camera. And that still rings true today. There's a lot of things these new cameras will do that you won't need, and they'll probably be a hindrance in your learning process if you jump into these cameras as a new photographer. So I like the 50D. Now the 70D is a grade above. It has a little better focusing in it. I looked at this camera on KEH. I think it was 183, 213, somewhere right in there on KEH. So it's a good price, and then you can get a 50 millimeter to go with it for less than $100. And with that setup, with the Canon 70D and a 50 millimeter lens, you can learn the exposure triangle. Once you learn that exposure triangle and get it mastered, and then you master the camera, then it's time to move on up into a higher end camera. But you need to be able to master one of these before you move into, say, a Canon R6. Just because there's a lot of stuff in these new cameras that confuse you and kind of sidetrack you from what you need to learn. The important thing is getting the shot right. You need to learn composition. You need to learn the exposure triangle. You need to learn how to pose. And a lot of the things these new cameras have to offer are just going to get you confused. So I say stick with the basics, and plus you get to start out not spending a lot of money. You can get into a Canon 70D with a 50 millimeter lens for well under $300, where if you move to a Canon R6 with a 50 millimeter lens, you're upwards of $2,000. And to learn, you don't really need to spend that kind of money. Now, again, I have done this for 41 years, and it's always been business for me. I've never did photography as a hobby. I've spent 41 years doing it as a living. So I look at things a little different than a lot of people look at it on YouTube. I try to make photography profitable and enjoyable. Now, we have a lot of hobbyists on our channel too, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with being a hobbyist. It's great fun to go out with your camera and take pictures and get some beautiful pictures and see what you can get. And there's nothing wrong with that at all. It's just me personally. I've always been in photography, has been my money income since I was literally 15 years old, believe it or not. And I started in a 1-hour lab, so I've been doing this for a long time, and it's always been a money maker for me. I know that companies like to put out brand new cameras and they advertise them as the greatest camera in the world, but you just don't really need all that to get started. If you're learning, grab a 70D, or if you're into Nikon or another brand, grab one of their lower DSLRs and grab a 50 millimeter lens that you can get down to 1.4, 1.8. You can learn to use bokeh. You can learn to pose. You can learn to do everything on a smaller and cheaper camera. And then once you get that part figured out, then you can feel free to up your camera. Maybe if you're going to this as a business, you can make money using that particular camera, building up. And once you get that mastered, sure, feel free to jump into like a Canon R6 or whatever camera you're looking for. Just make sure that you have the basics down, because if you don't have the basics down, it doesn't matter what camera you're using. Now, beginning of the year, we're going to be doing a few different things starting in 2025. We're going to be going over the exposure triangle. I'm going to try to go over it in a way that maybe you've never heard. I've been working on that as a side project. It's taken a while because I'm really trying to do it right for you guys. I want you to be able to understand it, and I want you to be able to understand it easily, and I want you to see why I'm doing what I am doing to make that work. One other thing I'm going to be doing is, I've been a Canon guy for 41 years, but as you guys know, since I started the YouTube channel, I have gotten big into the Lumix cameras, especially the Lumix Micro Four Thirds. We're recording right now on the Lumix G9 Mark II. I have retired from large weddings. We just did our last large wedding a few weeks ago. I'll still be doing some small stuff for friends, but no more 10 to 12 hour weddings for me. I'm getting kind of old for those kind of weddings. But I really like the Lumix line of cameras. Now, they make full frame cameras and they make Micro Four Thirds camera. And another thing, if money is an object, the Micro Four Thirds will offer you a lot of value in their camera. Don't be scared away by the small sensor. No, it won't shoot 12,800 as clear as my Canon R6 will. But how often do you need 12,800? I shot film for 20 something years and I never went above 3,200. I don't think it was on Konica film. So yeah, it is nice to be able to go to 12,800 with the Canon R6, but I got by without it for 20 years. So if maybe you want to go into the Micro Four Thirds system, you can get lenses. Like Lumix has a 25, which is a 50 millimeter on a Micro Four Thirds, because you double the size because of the sensor size. It's a 50 millimeter basically. It's f1.7, and you can get this lens for about $150. Now, if you go to Canon and you try to find a 1.4 for your Canon, you're going to be looking upwards on L lens of about $1,800. So that's a huge amount of money that you're going to be investing in those lenses. The Micro Four Thirds systems will do an incredible amount of fantastic work, and the lenses, the bodies, everything is so much cheaper than getting into Canon, Nikon, and the other companies that are out there. Now, I'm not saying you definitely need to go to Micro Four Thirds. It's not for everybody, but it is an option if money is very tight. It's a fantastic camera, and it'll do 95% of everything that you need, basically, that a full frame will do. So if I'm you, I'm calling KEH. I'm ordering a Canon 70D, and I'm ordering a 50 millimeter 1.4, 1.8 to go with it. That way you can practice your bokeh, your blurry backgrounds. You can go through the shutter triangle with it, and like I said, starting in 2025, we're going to have a series on the shutter triangle where I'm going to walk you guys through it. So I'm hoping to make that available fairly early in 2025. We have a lot going on the channel. We're going in a lot of different directions at one time, so I'm trying to focus into individual subjects to make it easy for you guys. Anyway, again, if you are just getting started in photography, there's no need to go buy the latest high-end camera that you can find. If you don't understand your exposure triangle, it will do nothing for you except spend a lot of money. So I highly suggest take a more basic camera, learn it inside and out, gradually move up to what you need, and then you will be able to enjoy the benefits of what cameras like the Canon R6 and the Canon R6 III, if it ever comes out, will have to offer, and you will save money in the long term. And you might get into it and decide that you don't like it, and then you've only got a couple of $100 invested in it. You don't have $2,000 or $3,000 invested in it, so it's no huge loss. You can turn around and sell that Canon 70D and lens for what you paid for it, so there'll be no loss there, no loss of money, so nothing to lose. If you guys have any suggestions, and especially you guys, if you have any questions on which camera you should buy, which brand, which particular camera, feel free to leave a comment down at the bottom, and I'll try to respond to everybody's questions, and we will get back to you. If we're helping you guys out, give us a thumbs up and hit that subscribe button, and we are here for you guys. We want to be the home for photography for all the photographers that we can get. Whether you're brand new or whether you're 40 years experience, we want this to be your home. We have people on this channel that are newbies all the way to 45, 50 years of experience. So give us a chance. Check us out. I'm always as close as a message down at the bottom. And I even leave my email if you don't want to post it down at the bottom. So feel free to send me an email and we will help you any way we can. That's my advice. So take that to the bank. I'm always looking for bang for the buck. You'll hear me say that a lot the more you watch the channel, but it's just how I do things. So I appreciate each and every one of you. And if you have any questions, just let me know. I'll get back to you. You guys have a great day. Thank you.